4 on Channel 5.
This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. A high-profile election year drug money bust today. A big-time international bank holding company with branches in 72 countries was indicted in Tampa, Florida. The charges? Hiding millions in profits for a Colombian cocaine cartel. CBS News law correspondent Rita Braver reports on a U.S. sting operation that netted 85 defendants and an entire worldwide financial institution.
The fancy cars were supposed to be taking guests to a wild bachelor party. Engraved invitations had gone out for a big wedding weekend at this swank Florida resort. But instead of a bash, there was a bust. The invited guests allegedly top guns in the international drug money laundering market, targets of a U.S. Customs undercover sting.
Actually, it was a piece of cake.
Bonnie Tischler's undercover agents made contact with a Colombian drug network operating all over the U.S. The agents served as middlemen to help the drug dealers smuggle their huge profits out of the country.
Well, you have to conceal and disguise your money. I mean, it's a logistics problem.
And according to federal indictments unsealed in Tampa, Florida today, the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, one of the largest financial institutions in the world, was only too happy to oblige with the money laundering scheme. BCCI officials allegedly moved the Colombian drug money from U.S. accounts established by the undercover agents into BCCI banks in several foreign countries. BCCI reportedly helped disguise the money as false loans and other transactions. It then went through Uruguay and then back to the Colombian drug dealers.
As sophisticated as they are, as tough as they are, as good as they are, they cannot operate without the cooperation of international financial institutions.
Now BCCI bank records have been seized in the U.S. and high bank officials arrested here as well as in London, Paris, and other foreign capitals. The bank could face up to $40 million in fines. U.S. law enforcement officials are particularly glad to get a look at the bank's secret files because there have been allegations that it was BCCI's Panama branch that was used by indicted Panamanian dictator Manuel Antonio Noriega to launder his secret drug profits. Rita Braver, CBS News, Tampa.
In a statement tonight, the indicted bank holding company said it was, and I quote, wholly unaware of any violations of law that allegedly have been committed, unquote. More safety and security problems came to light today about some of the key government facilities involved in the nuclear defense of the United States. Defense Department correspondent David Martin has the latest on this.
This time it's the Rocky Flats plant outside Denver. The Department of Energy issued an emergency order halting the processing of the nuclear material plutonium after an incident in which employees suffered radioactive contamination. Until safety violations are corrected, the U.S. has no way of processing plutonium, a key ingredient in nuclear weapons.
It could be a matter of a couple of weeks, or it could be 3 or 4 weeks. We hope it won't be any longer than that.
Pentagon officials say that should not have any effect on the production of nuclear weapons. But Rocky Flats is the second plant to suspend operations as a result of safety violations. The nuclear reactors at Savannah River are temporarily shut down, halting the production of a radioactive gas called tritium, another essential component of nuclear weapons.
It's a situation which ought to make us all nervous.
And Department of Energy officials seem resigned to uncovering more problems in this country's aging nuclear weapons complex.
I anticipate further problems within the safety arena. You have to remember that these facilities at Savannah River are 34 years old, and many of our facilities maybe outdate a lot of people in this room.
Another problem, security at the nation's weapons laboratories. A Senate committee heard testimony today that foreigners have been allowed to visit unclassified areas of the laboratories without first undergoing a background check.
Have there been any cases where a KGB agent was allowed to enter one of the labs and we didn't know it was a KGB agent until after the indices check came in after he left?
I'm sure there are.
This afternoon, members of the cabinet arrived at the White House for a regularly scheduled meeting of the National Security Council, at which the president was briefed on the problems with this country's nuclear weapons complex.
The modernization of nuclear weapons has been a hallmark of the Reagan defense buildup. But the plants which produce the nuclear materials that go into the weapons were left behind and will take a decade to catch up. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
Today is deadline day for voter registration in 14 states and the District of Columbia, including California, the state with the single biggest block of electoral votes. Michael Dukakis and George Bush were both heading for California tonight for their nationally televised joint appearance at UCLA Thursday. Bush had a light campaign schedule, but made time to attack Dukakis again for promoting, in Bush's words, fear of foreigners and protectionist demagoguery, and for, as Bush sees it, flip-flopping on the issue of foreign trade. For his part, Dukakis again hit out against foreign investment and ownership of U.S. firms, this time proposing a 6-point plan for upgrading U.S. science and technology training, mostly proposals he has made before. He also jabbed at Dan Quayle as the candidate who would come to office, quote, on a right wing and a prayer. Quayle himself campaigned in the Midwest today, ignoring questions about his qualifications to be a heartbeat away from the presidency. He mostly picked up where George Bush left off, accusing Dukakis of being soft on crime. Lloyd Benson tried to take some of the sting out of that with a target practice photo opportunity with police. Benson was displaying his new and prominent campaign role since his showdown with Quayle, campaigning in 2 key states outside the South, New Jersey and Pennsylvania. On one of the key economic issues of the campaign, the Congressional Budget Office is out tonight with its latest estimate on the federal budget deficit for this year. It is down slightly to $151.8 billion. This is still higher than the rosier deficit projections from Reagan-Bush administration economists. George Bush and Michael Dukakis have talked up various ways of knocking back that huge deficit, everything except a tax increase. CBS News business correspondent Ray Brady tonight looks beyond the campaign avoidances of discussion of new taxes to the economic realities.
It may be Vice President Bush's most famous utterance.
Read my lips. No new taxes.
A sentiment echoed, though not quite as strongly, by Michael Dukakis.
I hope we can avoid them.
In places where they study the nitty-gritty numbers in the federal budget, many analysts are saying no way the new president, whoever he is, can avoid raising taxes to balance the budget.
You have to do it by taxes. There isn't enough left that you can get political consensus on to get rid of a $150 billion deficit.
It's simple arithmetic. If we don't want to add further to a deficit that's already too big, we're going to have to consider revenue.
The arithmetic. $285 billion a year goes for national defense. But that's already been cut, and further cuts here could be limited. Social Security, $427 billion. Cutting that is political suicide. Interest on our debt, $148 billion a year. No way to cut that. Everything else, $196 billion. But that's already been squeezed way down. The result is a budget that's about $150 billion in the red, pushing the nation even more deeply in debt, with seemingly only one way out.
But the bottom line is taxes are going to have to go up.
Not everybody agrees.
We're out of the danger zone on the deficit. We're cutting it at a pace that seems about right, that's not hurting the economy. So what I'm really saying is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
But critics say economists like that and the vice president are trying to have their cake and eat it too, saying no more taxes, but also calling for more spending on, among other things, drug control, space, and education.
Underprivileged kids need Head Start.
If we're going to spend in these areas, at the same time the vice president doesn't want to cut Social Security or defense, it's virtually impossible to bring the deficit down without some revenue increases.
Dukakis has his own way to cut the deficit.
We've got to go out there and collect billions and billions of dollars in taxes owed that aren't being paid in this country.
But to put one IRS agent over each taxpayer's shoulder is just not going to work. It's not going to be done. And there isn't that much there. There's a little, but nowhere near enough to balance the budget.
What about the record? Running for governor, Dukakis promised no tax hikes. But then he raised taxes to wipe out a deficit left by his predecessor. And while there were tax protests even this year, he did preside over tax cuts as well.
The fact of the matter is that Dukakis has signed 11 tax decreases, and he has signed, as the Bush people say, 5 tax increases.
Under President Reagan and Vice President Bush, tax reform. Rates were cut. But under them, Americans also got a $24 billion increase in Social Security taxes, along with new taxes on gasoline, Medicare, and in fact, more than a dozen different tax hikes in all. Most financial experts believe there will be a tax increase, but they admit they don't know how either candidate will handle the tax question once he's in office. A measure, perhaps, of how both have skirted what may be the most important issue facing the nation. Ray Brady, CBS News, Washington.
And still to come on the CBS Evening News, correspondent Susan Spencer on a protest against slow research on a fast killer. And Jerry Bowen on home video that doesn't stay home.
If you used to take capsules, try new extra strength Tylenol gel caps. They're gelatin coated with a concentrated solid center under a smooth gelatin coating, so they're actually easier to swallow. Tylenol gel caps. It's not a capsule. It's better.
For 15 seconds, think about something you never think about. Toothbrushes. The Reach toothbrush can get your teeth 51% cleaner than the other leading brush. The Reach Dental Angle cleans even back teeth better. Reach. Just think. 51% cleaner teeth.
I've got big news for prune lovers who also love cereal. Actually, it's kind of small news when you look at it. It's Sunsweet bite-sized pitted prunes. Try them on your cereal, and you'll agree Sunsweet bite-size is just the right size.
Right now, having fun in a Ford Ranger is a whole lot easier to do. Get up to $500 cash bonus on the best-selling compact truck in America, the 1988 Ford Ranger.
Did you hear about Murphy? He switched our long distance.
On his own?
He made an executive decision.
I can't believe it.
He's got 10 years in, kids in college.
And didn't he think about his profit sharing, his pension?
Does Foster know? Foster knows.
So, what happened to poor Murphy?
He got promoted.
MCI. Until you call, you'll never know how much better a long-distance company can be. Let us show you.
Protesters stayed off the streets in Algeria today after a week of rioting that left at least 400 people dead. Soldiers and tanks were guarding the slums of Algiers where the violence erupted, but today the president said the state of siege will be lifted tomorrow. He has also promised wide-ranging political reforms. The entire government of Czechoslovakia resigned today following the premier's resignation yesterday. It's the second change of government in Czechoslovakia this year and another sign of growing turmoil in communist Eastern Europe. From London, our chief CBS News European correspondent Tom Fenton has filed this report.
From the Soviet Baltic states in the north, where tens of thousands of Latvians are demanding autonomy and a loosening of Moscow's tight controls, to the Balkan provinces of Yugoslavia, which are now in turmoil, long suppressed ethnic and nationalist passions are rising to the surface. The tensions in communist states that were once docile are signs that the old communist order of Eastern Europe is breaking down.
There is bound to be tensions in Eastern Europe. In fact, Gorbachev himself is one of the greatest sources of tension.
Gorbachev's calls for reform are destabilizing the old-style leadership of Eastern Europe and are producing only dismal results in his own country. Even his most cherished reform, the effort to stem the tide of alcoholism in Russia, has now failed. An increase in vodka supplies was ordered last week. That will cut down the waiting lines for at least one basic commodity.
We're now in a period of open public admission from the leaders of these countries that socialism has failed. It's failed economically, it's failed socially, it's failed spiritually.
Experts believe that Eastern Europe is now at a turning point. The danger for Gorbachev is that East Europeans, seeing no hope for reform from the East, will start looking west. In communist East Berlin this summer, a state-authorized Bruce Springsteen concert produced some scenes that until recently would have been unheard of in a rigidly controlled communist state. Today, there are signs everywhere in Eastern Europe of a socialist world in turmoil. Tom Fenton, CBS News, London.
Another frustrating day for the yacht New Zealand, which was beaten in the America's Cup last month, and a strange day. A transport ship carrying the yacht was seized by the Cuban Navy. The U.S.-registered Tampa Seahorse was en route from San Diego to New York. The U.S. State Department says it was forced into port by a Cuban gunboat, apparently when it strayed into Cuban territorial waters.
Every 3,000 miles, you can change your oil yourself.
leave your car at the dealer, spend all day at the service station, or drive into Jiffy Lube with no appointment. In 10 minutes, the J-Team will change your oil with quality Pennzoil, replace the filter, lube the chassis, fill the important fluids, 14 quality services. Jiffy Lube turns an all-day oil change into a 10-minute family reunion.
Welcome to Jiffy Lube. We'll take care of you like family.
After you've produced the yearly report in record time, after you've made order out of paperwork chaos, after you've turned the slideshow into a colorful part of your winning proposal, and seen productivity become top priority, maybe after all that you'll know why Canon is the most popular copier in America. From personal to color laser copying, the choice is Canon. Call toll-free 1-800-OK-CANON.
With low back pain, every step shoots pain. Up here. Know what helps?
Clinically proven Back Guard, a shoe insert. Watch how it absorbs foot shock to relieve low back pain.
Amazing. Something down here can help up here.
New Back Guard from Dr. Scholl.
Gas pain, bloating. Gas-X has the strongest, fastest relief ingredient. Painful gas is like beer bubbles. Add the leading antacid. Add Gas-X. Only Gas-X gets rid of the gas. The strongest, fastest reliever for gas pain and bloating. Gas-X.
Angry demonstrators managed to close down the Food and Drug Administration today. They accused the agency under President Reagan of wasting time in the war against AIDS. For some of the protesters, time is a precious commodity, as Susan Spencer explains.
Seize control of the FDA! 52 will die today!
Ronald Reagan was hoisted in effigy this morning as hundreds of AIDS activists descended on the Food and Drug Administration, determined to shut it down. The charge that while people are dying, FDA delays. The demand that the FDA speed up approval of drugs that show any promise against AIDS.
I know that there are drugs out there that can save my life, and I want to know why they're not being tested more quickly.
Police, a few wearing rubber gloves, dutifully arrested demonstrators who often waited for the cameras. But behind all the orchestration, the smoke bombs, the broken windows, is simple frustration. An AIDS bill providing millions for drug development sits stalled in Congress. 8 years into the epidemic, only AZT is licensed for use against AIDS. The government's promised quick release of experimental drugs hasn't happened.
I'm here fighting for my life because I don't have 8 to 10 years to wait for the FDA to approve each new drug.
You think they're doing all they can? They're not. They're sitting on drugs that can save people's lives.
In a written statement, the FDA disputed that, saying AIDS has been given top priority, and adding, the unfortunate fact is that there are no candidates to directly treat the AIDS virus pending before the agency. Doctors who treat AIDS patients also insist that no one is holding back anything worthwhile.
People don't need to be fighting against the FDA. The FDA, the NIH, these are our friends, not the enemy.
None of that, of course, is very comforting to people who have AIDS, who are quite convinced that, in fact, much more can be done, and determined to see to it that in the next administration, it will be. Susan Spencer, CBS News, Rockville, Maryland.
Billionaire real estate developer Donald Trump reportedly has agreed to buy the Eastern Air Shuttle for more than $350 million. The shuttle connects New York, Boston, and Washington, D.C. The Miami News reports official announcement is expected tomorrow. A U.S. government report today says drivers 75 and older are involved in more accidents than any other age group except teenagers. With the number of older drivers on the rise, the National Research Council urges states to issue restricted licenses when warranted and to design roadsides with larger print. The report emphasizes that most older drivers are, quote, capable and safe.
This is precious cargo. Telecommunications equipment on its way to Japan. On another day, it might be medical systems headed for Europe. We design and build that equipment. We're Siemens USA. 27,000 people, 47 manufacturing plants, and nearly $3 billion in sales and service of electronic and electrical equipment. And each year, 15% of that is worldwide exports from America. We are Siemens USA.
June Allison for Depend.
Enjoying life is so much easier when you have the best bladder control protection. New Depend undergarments has special layers of absorbency that won't bunch or sag, and elastic legs for a better fit. It's simply the best protection you can get. More people trust Depend, and you can too. Get back into life.
Get back into life with Depend.
Looking for whole wheat total?
Shredded wheat.
You'll need 12 boxes to equal the vitamin and mineral nutrition in just one box of Total. No other cereal has more.
I think I'll have Total, sweetheart. Total.
If it's whole wheat Total, it's Total Nutrition.
In a new survey, we asked 1,000 doctors if stranded on an island, would they want Tylenol, extra strength Tylenol, Advil, or Bayer? Doctors chose Bayer, 3-to-1 over extra strength Tylenol. Bayer, the wonder drug that works wonders.
All 435 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives are at stake Election Day. CBS News correspondent Peter Van Sant tonight reports on one House race that stands out from all the rest for sleaze and for downright nastiness. The race for Georgia's 4th congressional district outside Atlanta.
It may be the nation's dirtiest congressional campaign.
I can't change the fact that you chose to be dishonest.
Being called dishonest by you, Pat's like being called ugly by a possum.
In one corner is Republican incumbent Pat Swindle, a congressman seen in this FBI undercover video discussing a $150,000 loan from an alleged drug money laundering company. Swindle's dealings are being investigated by a federal grand jury, which last week prompted the candidate to make a desperate plea on the floor of the House of Representatives for his day in court.
Then the Attorney General owes it to me to immediately demand that the U.S. Attorney in Atlanta indict me tomorrow and put me in trial on Monday.
In the other corner is Democratic challenger Ben Jones, a man many of you may remember as Cooter in the old Dukes of Hazzard television show.
Y'all ain't no doubt about it. You got big trouble here.
Jones is a recovering alcoholic who admits he once beat an ex-wife and was arrested for disorderly conduct and criminal trespassing.
I'm just like everybody else. I'm a human being. I'm not running for sainthood. I'm running for Congress.
When polls showed Jones was leading the incumbent, the campaign turned nasty as Congressman Swindle started running bare-knuckle radio ads.
This week, another one of Ben Jones' arrest records has surfaced. This arrest resulted when Jones' first wife fled to a motel to escape his ongoing assault.
They throw mud at each other continuously. It's gotten so bad, one would almost have to get a front-end loader to get the way out of it.
At a debate last night, the campaign continued on the low road when Swindle read from a classified ad from a homosexual newspaper.
That the homosexual men and lesbians in this community want to defeat me and are helping you with phone banks.
You might have put that in there yourself, for all I know, the way you operate. I didn't.
New polls show that Swindle's negative campaigning is paying off, that he has pulled even with his challenger. The only ones taking a bath in this muddy campaign are the voters, who are mired amid charges of lying, drunkenness, wife-beating, and drug money, but who have heard little discussion of the district's problems. Peter Van Sant, CBS News, Atlanta.
You've got to be kidding. I mean, a cereal today is supposed to be fun, wild shapes, jelly beans. You got anything like that? These are just flakes. I like this. That's funny, huh? Unless you're going for a retro thing, right? Bringing back all the good stuff. Yeah, it's simple, basic. I like that.
Kellogg's Corn Flakes.
Get out of here. Cornflakes?
Taste them again for the first time.
I need home cooking.
How about Swanson Homestyle recipe number 4? Swiss cheese plus 2 aged cheddars over pure semolina pasta. When your mom makes it, she calls it macaroni and cheese.
Okay, then I'll try it.
Claude Akins. Love your Polygroup ads, but I use a powder adhesive for my dentures.
Then try this. Super Polygrip Powder. One use holds up to 12 full hours. Get Super Polygrip Powder with 12-hour holding power.
Original Yoplait is the yogurt with nothing on the bottom.
Nothing on the bottom.
I have lumpy yogurt with fruit jammed on the bottom.
Nothing on the bottom.
Yoplait smooth and creamy with fruit right up to the top.
Nothing but natural. Nothing but low fat. Nothing on the bottom. And that's the end of that.
Original Yoplait.
Nothing on the bottom. And that's the end of that.
Oh, yeah.
Ever since television news was born, not so long ago after all, it has been changing. Improved technology, new sources of news. Now one of the newest and fastest growing resources TV has for bringing you the news is you. You and your home video camera. Jerry Bowen reports.
Tim, that's going towards our house.
Yes, it's another home video coming to you on the news.
Gonna be a big bang in a minute.
All kinds of home videos. Explosions at rocket fuel factories. Miracle landings of airplanes.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Even Wisconsin farm wife Joy Smoggy's vacation made it on the news. There's Mom and Sis and the mother-in-law. And here's the part that made it. The derailment of their train and vacation in Montana. Joy just kept on shooting, and a local TV station later paid her $500.
My husband said, "Oh, who'd want to buy all that garbage?" My sister looked at it and she said, "Joy, that's worth money."
What we're really seeing, in a way, is the democratization of television. Now everybody can make television.
There's a full-blown video revolution sweeping the land with an army of about 10 million camera-ready Americans that includes your next-door neighbor, a deckhand on an Alaska fishing boat.
He's on the side.
And who will ever forget that insurance broker from Des Moines, on vacation with nothing but time to kill?
And a friend of mine comes up and says, want to see a celebrity? And I go, sure. Because there's Gary Hart right there on the boat. And we all said, no, it's not. And sure enough, it was.
Sure enough. And when John Merle later realized what he had, he sold it for $5,000. No one can hide from the home video horde. Not the police when they allegedly get out of hand. Not the criminals. This was New York City's so-called preppy killer, Robert Chambers, at a private party last May, before his conviction in the strangulation death of a young woman. Used to be people worried about Big Brother watching. Now it seems you've got everybody's brother and his sister behind the camera.
Within 3, 4, or 5 years, we're going to see 20 million camcorders out there, so it'll be that much more likely that some type of news would take place in front of somebody that they could actually record it.
Or they could actually stage it. This was supposedly a daring escape from East Berlin, a man and 3 dummies dressed as Soviet border guards driving to freedom. But it was a hoax. And there were the first pictures of the Chernobyl disaster. In reality, pictures of an Italian cement plant, taken by professionals to look like home video.
If you see and record news on your home video
Despite the obvious danger, there's a growing demand for this electronic folk journalism and real opportunities for the neighborhood camera bug, who understands that what has 4 wheels, runs backwards, in circles, is sometimes the stuff of broadcast news. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And, of course, if you get any really good home video of real news, call CBS News. That's tonight's CBS Evening News. Dan Rather, see you tomorrow. Good night.
I'm Kathleen Sullivan.
And I'm Harry Smith. Tomorrow, the crew of the Space Shuttle Discovery.
And the crucial California vote in Campaign 88 on CBS this morning.
This is CBS.